Recording in progress.
Okay, we're ready then.
Eddie, what's happening, brother?
A lot of things happening, a lot of good stuff, man. We're expanding. We're going to remove some of the operations out to New York. Uh, we already expanded to Chicago and LA. So we want to do a lot in advertising. We do some in advertising. Now we're going to like really expand operations to New
Whoa.
York. I also have a four-part book series. It's real. I'm going to give you some good explanations on how I started in my history. So I'm
Amazing.
excited about that. Signing more catalogs. Excited about that. We just recently acquired the publishing side of Michael Henderson's "You're My Stasha." Your audience can look that up. It's one of the greatest soul songs in history. Norman Connors and Michael Henderson. So we're excited about that one, and a lot of good stuff happening, man. As far as sync in the sync world,
Man, I feel honored to have you. And
appreciate
we
it.
just started opening up the can of worms, which is a good can of worms. But I feel like we'll get into it right now because I feel like I mean, sync is just one aspect of everything, in my
Sure.
opinion. What the podcast is like. The whole thing of this podcast is just like to show who the people are more than
Okay. Yeah.
what syncs you get. Because yeah, of course, you're
Okay.
here, you made it, whatever. But
Yeah.
to me, it's like, who are you kind of thing. So I'd love for you to kind of talk about where music started for you, where you grew up, how it shaped what you do today with Music of the Sea and the amazing work that you're doing today with bigger artists and kind of you can take it to wherever you want. Like really don't limit yourself only to sync because I feel like that's the tip of the iceberg. But I feel like your story, I'd love to hear it myself.
Let's
Don't
go
hold
back
back.
to 19. Let's go back to 1970 Chicago,
Let's go.
man.
Let's go.
We lived on the south side of Chicago, South Shore. It's an area called South Shore. And I can remember way back in probably 1973, 72, my mother had a 1966 Chevy Caprice class. I think it was a Caprice. And I can remember being in the back seat and hearing My Sherry Amore by Stevie Wonder in the back seat. And that just made me feel good. So I just used to always love hearing that song. So you fast forward to a few years later, I'm getting ready to go to grammar school, and a friend of mine lived down the street, and he would come over my house, and we would like kind of play some. My mother went to work, so we would play some albums that she would have, and one of the albums was Heat Wave, Too Hot to Handle. And I used to play Ain't No Half Stepping over and over again. I just love the intro to that song.
Mm.
So that compiled with my father, who didn't stay with me, being a DJ, I already had it in my blood. The music component was already there. So you I used to just play music over and over again in my mother's living room growing up.
Mm.
So you want to fast forward to that. I started DJing just around the neighborhood for just friends, not DJing like a DJ that's spinning records, but just playing cassette tapes. People would come around in my bedroom and just listen to music,
Yeah.
and I would just play different. I would have the ear to play the certain records they would like, even though they had the records, but I knew how to play them in the role where it felt good. Then you put that together. My brother had the same ear,
Mm.
exact same ear. My father's DJ. My brother is also DJ. So I had that component. And my mother's side of the family, there's a lot of musicians and singers on that side. My cousin's a singer. My other cousin's a aficionado. He introduced me to a lot of music early on because he was a music head. So it was just all around me. The gravity was there, man. The whole universe of music was around me. And then, it compiled with the neighborhood and disco music and funk. I had all of that in. So we can fast forward a little bit to around let's say 1987, around when hip hop started taking to fruition. I heard Eric B. and Rakim. I really didn't like rap until that time. I liked it okay. Run DMC was okay, and some of the early ones they were okay. But when Rakim and Eric B came out, that was it, man. I was like, I really love hip hop.
Mm.
So they used to use samples at that time, right? And I knew a whole lot of deep cuts, just obscure records. And I said, man, I probably can come up with samples either better or equal to the ones they come up with. So my cousin, my mother's sister's son, he said he could rap. I didn't believe him. And you know, they eventually moved to Atlanta. So he would rap over the phone to me. I'm like, yeah, you can't rap. He's like, yes, I can. So he could rap over the phone. So I took a trip down to Atlanta and I played Body Talk by Eddie Kendricks because it has a long instrumental section in between. And he was able to be on time and actually rap. So I made some calls and I called my cousin who was the drummer, as I mentioned earlier, has some people in family as musicians. He said, I want to hook you up with a guy that knows how to produce named Sam. So he did that, and I bought some equipment, SP12 drum machine, 688 Tascam, some Moog stuff, just a whole bunch of equipment to learn how to DJ. And I paid a guy named Buzz, rest in peace, to teach me how to work this equipment every Saturday. So I started learning how to work the equipment, and then I got really serious with my cousin, who's the rapper. His name is Swolts, by the way. You can look him up on the internet. He's a legend overseas. His name is Swolts, Swolts.
Okay.
So it was like G Funk, like the Snoop kind of thing. We were doing the same thing. And this is in the early days of Chicago hip hop. This is around 1991, somewhere around there. So I came out with a cassette tape with him, and we would sell it to the mom and pop stores in Chicago area. A place called Coops Underground, George Music Room. Everybody knows George Daniels in Chicago. Ray Barney's. What's the other one? It was just so many on the south side and the west side. So I would go get in my car, take a box of tapes to these places, and they would sell, man. But we really didn't get anywhere because I would send the same tapes to New York and LA to try to get a record deal. Never got the record deal. The story's moving, by the way. So mastering, I'm still putting these CDs out, tapes and then CDs. And this is around 1994, 95. I'm still putting them out. We're selling around the neighborhoods and stuff like that. And a guy named Danny Leak, rest in peace, great mastering engineer in Chicago, he said, hey, man, why don't you go to meet him over in Cannes, France? It was a conference where the world comes together. All of record labels and publishers come together in one place, and they collaborate and make deals. So I went over there and I started making deals with different countries to put my songs on different countries' compilation albums. So a record label, or no, it was a film production company in Belgium, asked me, hey, can I put one of your records into my movie? I was like, yeah. He gave me like, I think $500 or something. I still don't know what the movie is to today. But at that time, the light bulb went off in the head. Man, maybe I can do this back in the United States. When I get back home, I'm going to try the same thing, try to license music to film and TV. And this is probably 1997, 98, somewhere around there, maybe 96, somewhere around there. And I was like, okay. So I came back to the States and I read everything I could on license and music. So it was like, go to jingle houses and find music supervisors. That's what I did. I found all the conferences around the world to go to meet music supervisors and jingle houses. I did that to no avail. I got nowhere, but I went to all of them and I learned the ins and outs on what you need to do. But none of them would talk to me. None of the music supervisors would talk to me. I would wait on after the panel and rush up to them and, hey, I'm Eddie Caldwell, blah, blah, blah. Nobody wanted nothing to do with me. And I understand now because they didn't trust who I was and did I really have the rights to this stuff.
Mm.
But I just eventually kept going. They kept seeing me. And then an interesting guy, years later, I always tell people it took me about 10 years to start at the top. So an interesting guy that I met in Hollywood at a Hollywood bar, two guys, one of them was really interesting. It's probably the guy that they call the worst guy in Hollywood. I met him and another guy named Richard Glasser. And they put me on. They gave me a shot. And it was the Weinstein Company.
Mm-hmm.
So Harvey Weinstein gave me a shot, him and Richard Glasser. So I put a lot of music in Scary Movie 5, and my career just took off from there. So, and then it brings me all the way to now where I have a massive catalog, one of the most elite in the world. We do everything from the smallest indie artists all the way to the biggest one, as you know, Snoop and Beyonce and all that kind of stuff. So there you have it, myself in a nutshell.
Mm. Wow, so many directions we can go from here. It's like where do we start? I feel like it's so you were kind of skipping over the mixtape era and all that time where everybody was bootlegging, right? Like at the
For
time.
real.
And
Yeah, that at that time I was focused on selling CDs.
Yeah.
I had a record label, so I wasn't really doing the mixtape thing like a lot of them. That was 2000s. Yeah, but I was
So
there definitely.
so once I have a lot of things that come into my mind. That's how my mind works. It works in a very chaotic way, but I feel like we're gonna
That's cool. I like
bring it
chaos is
into
good.
order.
Control
But
chaos.
Harvey Weinstein, like once that happens, after all these years hustling, like what held you? What kept you going? What kept you motivated for 10 years to just like be be getting doors closed on you and constantly?
I don't believe I can't do it. I don't have that gear is not in my system.
Hmm.
It's like I'm going to do it. I don't believe when people tell me no. And it's always been like that. You know, it's like I can do this. I know the product I have is good. I just think it. I could tell you another. I'll piggyback off another story. So I
Yeah.
don't want to name his name, but it's a certain executive that was at a major network. I had a meeting with him, and he's a cool dude. You know, so I played my music for him. I go up there. It's a sync guy. I don't want to say his name, but it was a major network, and he
Yeah.
was like, "Well, you know, Eddie, you got some good music, but don't you know it's 800 other companies like you just trying to get their music to me?" And I was like, "Yeah, but now you got 801, and none of them are me."
Mm.
I
Mm.
always remembered that. I was
Yeah.
like, that just drives me even more. I don't care how many other companies there are.
Right.
Yeah.
That
So I
grit.
don't have that gear. It's not a switch that says, hey, stop. Yeah.
Mm. So yeah, but yeah, just like the thing that kind of keeps me pushing back towards you is like pushing this aspect back towards you is like, there's a lot of people in sync who are trying to make it, and it takes time.
Hmm.
And I would love to know, what would you tell to those people who are, let's say, 3, 5 years into their sync journey and are like, man, like this
Okay.
sucks. Like I'm getting
That's
I'm
you.
getting $20 in my royalty statement, and I'm like, I'm for there you go. Okay, so Eddie's now presenting us with something.
If they want to
That
know what it is, they got to get this book series,
There you go. Sync
Sync
empowerment.
Empowerment, right?
Okay,
It's all on Amazon, Amazon.com. You get the ebooks. You just go
got
to
it.
any of my socials, so you can get Sync Empowerment. This is like a starter's guide, but I would even tell catalogs to get this. If you have the Sync catalog, you still want to get this because it's a lot of little secrets that people don't know. Okay.
Damn. And sync
Then we got
mastery.
Sync Mastery. This is when you're a little further along. This is teaching you about social media, how that can engage you right here.
That's
Then we
tough.
got sync royalty. Now, this is for when you're more established, when you're actually getting syncs. Now, how to maintain the syncs, how to keep going. And then it's
Wow.
another sync empire, and that's when you get a massive catalog of 20 or 30,000 songs. So that one I don't have on me, but it's called Sync Empire. All four of them available on Amazon. So that's the commercial break. But they they have to separate themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I would tell them, the people that's getting hearing their syncs, first of all, you got to build relationships. You got to be a
Mm.
warm and friendly person, and know not when to bug a music supervisor.
Mm.
So you don't want to bug them. And the key to one of them is know what you're pitching. Watch their shows.
Mm.
Make sure you know the tone of the show. Check out the showrunner. See what else he's done. You can go further than music. So if you go further up the chain and see what else that music, because usually the showrunner carries the music suit. So you're
Mm.
getting some good gems here. So
Yeah.
it's the showrunner that hires them. So the showrunner has maybe two or three shows, and they kind of like have the same tone because it's what they grew up on. A lot of times it's the music they grew up on.
Got
Like
you.
I'll give you a perfect example. Like if you Gary Calamar, he's like a legend in the game. He does with him. If you got older music, then you want to kind of like cater to just kind of look at his shows, True Blood and Man in the White Castle, High Castle. You want to start looking at his stuff. He does a lot of older stuff, 80s, 70s, and then you can go to Amanda Craig Thomas, who's more hip, and Jen Malone, who's more hip. So you just got to kind of learn your craft, like I did. I
Yeah.
learned it. I didn't just sit there and just try to pitch. I
Mm.
learned who they were and what kind of shows they work on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Je-
So it's a
Je-
lot of little things.
yeah, Jen Malone and the other ones, they're supervisors. Yeah. Like, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. They're prominent ones too. Like the biggest ones in Hollywood.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Jen Malone did she do Euphoria? Was that Jen?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Corey Atlanta. I just got
That's
some stuff
fire.
with I just did a big one with her. Oh, Hysteria. Yes. But yeah, she's a good friend of mine. And yeah, it takes a while for a sync company, but it's
Yeah.
so many sync companies that you have to separate yourself because it's more music than they can ever imagine to
Right.
get. So you
Right.
have to set yourself apart,
Mm.
you know. So it's finding your niche. Don't be a bugaboo. And you know, you got to pick your battles and be kind of, you know, you got to have some karma. I mean, some charisma. That's what I'm trying to say.
But I feel like also karma works here. I mean, I feel like karma is a bit misunderstood because people feel like karma comes to you in a way, but it's not like you create your karma, you create your luck. Like you and like you said, you put yourself in. You went to France, like
I went
in
everywhere.
the 1990s. It
Let's
was
go
so
back. Let's go
crazy.
back further. So
Yeah,
I went to France.
let's go.
I went to Paris. I went to Barbados. These are all for sync events.
Shit,
Reaper Bomb. I went to man, how many
Germany.
conferences did I go to, man? I mean, I went everywhere you could think of, wherever they were, and got
Wow,
nowhere a lot of times.
wow.
Another great conference is Muse Expo. Sat Bisla called A&R. It's A&R Worldwide. It was called Muse Expo. I used to go there every year and pitch the round tables and get to know the music soups at the round tables. You would pay some money and you could sit around. And I would get nothing there, you know, but
Mm,
they got to know me.
mm.
Even though I wouldn't get anything, they got to know me and I learned so much from sitting at the tables on
Yes, sir.
how they work. So it's like, you know, just getting in there. It's like being a quarterback if you follow football.
Yeah,
Know the playbook, man.
yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, like it's interesting because it does feel like a bit of a wild, wild west in that, in a sense, because you never know where this sync is going to come from, right? Like because you make
No.
all this music, you make all these connections, you never know where this one where somebody will put their faith in you and let you do their show, or like somebody will let you sync directly to them. You never know where it'll come from, but as long as you follow these guidelines that you presented that are so simple yet so overlooked, like I mean, be human,
Mhm.
be lovable. I've seen so many people who just like go up to speakers and throw cards at them,
It's
and
a relationship business.
and it is, and it's kind of, it is where I feel like the people want to go and send a lot of cold emails and do that thing that a lot of people do in other areas,
Yeah.
whereas I feel like in music it's more of a people's business than other businesses, if that
You
makes
know, a
sense.
lot of times I also see that a lot of the people that's new in the game, they come in and they get a sync or two, or maybe three, or maybe one music super or two, and they really think they won the game. When a
Mm,
lot of times they're just replacements for people that they couldn't get in contact with.
right,
So your job is not to be happy with that.
right.
You got to work and say, how can I get more of these? You
Yeah,
know, you can't rest on your laurels at first, you know, because I never stop. I still don't rest on my laurels, you know, even though they come to me most of the time now.
mm,
But it's, you know, it's you just can't rest because there's somebody right behind you that want that sync.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So you just got to make sure your craft is straight, have all your rights together,
yeah.
and just make sure your music stands out more than the next man.
Yeah. That's a big thing. That's a hard thing today as well, because there's 100,000 songs a day put
Yeah.
out on Spotify these days. And I mean, like Spotify is a whole different hole, but like it's not a revenue stream anymore as much as it's like an exposure place for people.
Yeah.
Sadly, but it's just, being able to distinguish yourself in
Hmm.
in such a wide business now is what
So wise.
I mean, it's what I find like that's the kind of that's where you really got to choose your battles.
Yeah, that's where you separate yourself too. It's like, okay, let I'm more fun than the next guy.
Right.
You know, it all comes down to, you know, you got to take people out, man. And you can't be from somewhere else. If you're like from, say you're in the Kansas City,
Yeah.
you got to do something to come up here once a month.
Yeah.
Either that or just have some kind of extraordinary music that nobody can get. You
Right.
got to have some like Vietnam funk, you know what I mean? That nobody has. You know what I mean? Now they don't care where you're at.
Yeah.
But I know people that's trying to build their sync company from other places. I tried to build mine from Chicago, which I did. I actually built it from Chicago. But when I moved out to LA, when I made a transition, it was lights out, man.
Yeah.
It was night and day. So you
Yeah.
got to be in LA, or you got to be close to LA, or be in New York. New York does not have as many music supervisors.
Right.
It's big in advertising though. So
Right. Right. That I
yeah,
mean, it's bigger in advertisement and also in like theater and more stuff like that.
Broadway. Yeah,
But yeah, music videos maybe. But
yeah.
anyway, like I feel like what you're saying resonates so in such a way to me because I went to PMC. I just came back like a few
I
weeks
was
ago.
there.
You were there?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
Damn, how'd I miss
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I came on the last day, I think, or the day before. I just came to
Word.
see some friends. I didn't participate in there,
Okay, okay, okay.
but I was definitely there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, like I went there for the whole 3 days and I stayed there for another week and I came back to Bali and I had such a down in energy. Uh,
Oh man. Yeah.
because and it was a bit of I have to say like I'll have to be honest here it was a bit of depressing like
Yeah.
to come here after seeing where everything is and where how fast the energy moves in LA and there was I mean when I don't know you probably know but maybe you don't but like Will Smith's story of coming for the first time to LA where he meets Quincy Jones and they do the whole Prince of
Oh
Bel-Air
wow.
thing
Yeah.
In Quincy's living room it was like this whole crazy story but I think that this story is so powerful because this is kind of how it feels like to be in LA. There's
Yeah.
people creating stuff everywhere. It's like
Yeah. It's
such
everywhere.
a you can sit in a coffee shop and watch your
Yeah.
favorite director speak to somebody about their next movie. It's just like crazy.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then coming
It's
back
that
here
it's that daily. Yeah.
was hard,
It's
man.
daily.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's LA's been good to me. It's my second home, and I love it here. Wouldn't change a thing. It did a lot for me. LA has done a lot for me.
Yeah.
Go Dodgers, by the way.
Go Dodgers. I mean, yeah, I feel like definitely next year I'm planning on coming for longer. Maybe I'll go to the Guild of Supervisors too. Like
Yeah,
I deeply resonate with all that you've you've shared for sure. So
yeah. I
yeah,
sponsored them every year. They've been good to me too. To Guild of Music Supervisors. In fact, in my book, I'm gonna do a
let's
shameless
go.
plug.
Pull it out.
Shameless plug.
Let's
So,
go.
sync
I'm
all
gonna
the
read
sync
it.
books.
Do you have
Yeah,
a
all the
Kindle
sync.
for it?
Yeah.
Let's go.
So yeah, just go to Amazon. It's Kindle
All
too.
right.
So all the sync books have music supervisors quotes, the biggest ones. Let's see. Let's find one. So they all like contribute. All the big ones contributed to my book. I couldn't put all of them in there, but a lot of them like really want to be in there.
Amazing.
And, so like Jen Malone is contributed. Here's John Houlihan. Wait, this is the wrong side.
Oh, wow,
This
that's
is
a
a quote from
fire
my book.
looking book.
Oh yeah, it's slick. Wait, can you see it now?
Yeah.
There it is. So John Houlihan is that. Wait, he's the head of Disney Music
Oh
right
shit.
now,
Yeah.
and he did. I've worked with him a lot. Where did he go? I'm
You're
trying to get
coming
his
in and
name.
out. It's all good. People
Yeah,
hear
you can
us.
see it.
People mostly
Yeah.
listen to us. So
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, so John Houlihan is a good friend of mine, and when I got to Weinstein, started working with them. I started working with Alex Patsagas, who's probably the most prominent music supervisor there is.
yeah.
She is the head of Netflix music now, but I started with her after Weinstein. And then after her, I started, when that was at Grey's Anatomy and Carrie Diaries, I worked with her on some projects like that. And then after that, I worked with John Houlihan on Training Day and some other stuff. And he did Austin Powers, John Wick, and now he's head of
Wow.
Disney Music. And he's part of my book. Matthew Knowles, Beyonce's father, is my best friend, and he
Wow.
did the forward. He did the forward on all the books. So Mary Ramos is in there, who's the music supervisor for Quentin Tarantino, all his films.
Okay.
She's in the book and gave me a quote. Justin Camps of Grey's Anatomy, Jared
Okay.
Cowsley of Saatchi and Saatchi. Who else is in there? Like I said, Jen Malone,
Sheesh.
uh, James Gus Joel C. High, my boy, does all the Tyler Perry stuff. That's how I got all the Tyler Perry placements working with Joel C. and his team. So it's a plethora of music supervisors that contributed to this. I'm grateful for them.
Man, hell
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's a lot. I feel like that's a lot. And yeah, I mean, I do feel like me and you are probably gonna next time I come to LA, we're probably gonna do one in person if you'd like it.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
And I'd love for you to if you have like a final piece of advice for people who are coming in, who are trying to get their chops, trying to get in, trying to make a name for themselves, trying to make it in the world that you're in. What
Sure.
would you suggest? Like, what is
Okay,
final
first,
piece of
the
advice?
first thing you do is get outstanding music that stands out. Make sure it's mastered tight. Make sure it has a good hook. Make sure whatever your music you're going for, what is your aspiration? What shows do you like? Watch the shows, look for that music. If you're not a creator, if you're a creator, then it is what it is, whatever you create.
Yeah.
Secondly, make sure your rights are together. Make sure the publishing and master, you own it or control it or whatever. Make sure all the rights are tight. So you got the music, now you got the rights. Now you're ready to go fishing. And remember, these are people and they're very busy.
Yeah.
So when you go out to talk to a music supervisor, you want to make your story like undeniable, even if you got to stretch it a little bit. So you want to be undeniable because everybody's coming at them.
Yeah.
So you want to take them to dinner. You want to ask them, can you buy them a cup of coffee? And you want to be soft with it. And don't rush them. Like one of my tricks, what I used to do is I would be in a line with music supervisors, and it would be 20 other people in front of me, right?
Yeah.
And they don't want to really talk to them. They do, but it's like a bit much. And I would go up to them after when it's my turn. Hey, I know I'll be real quick. Uh, I have a great catalog of music. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I'd love to get an email from you or some way to contact you. I have some great music. It's one stop. I've been doing this a while. I would just have some kind of little soft story to give them where they would remember me.
Mm,
And I would just always offer, I'd love to get you a cup of coffee and just share some stories about how I blew up in Chicago. You know what
mm.
I mean?
Yeah.
Even though I didn't blow up in Chicago. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I actually did, but you definitely want to add something to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Add
Not just
flavor.
because I see a lot of artists go up to a music supervisor and say something like, well, I played piano when I was 12 and it's that now you just, now you're just draining them out. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
just
Go.
have a great ear, find out what you're trying to get, what shows you're trying to get on. Watch the shows, whatever, and make sure your music fits that show because you don't want to pitch them music and they don't need it.
Yes,
That's
sir.
the last thing you don't want to do. So yeah,
That's
that's it, man. And
amazing.
keep going, never stop if you really believe in it.
Oh
And
man.
you'll get it. They'll get it. I mean, whoever goes for it will get it as long as they follow these tips. And if you get my books, you'll have a head start on everybody else. I wish I had my books
I'm
back then.
curious to be honest. I'm curious what I can learn for real from your book. So I'm
Yeah, you
probably
will. I tell a lot of secrets in there.
all right.
Yeah.
Word. I'm gonna be the first customer before my listeners. So look
Then you
out.
can
Look
tell them
out.
about it. You can tell. Please write a review too. Whoever's listening, you get the book, write a review. That helps out, get more people involved in the community. And I really appreciate it. So it's for
Hell yeah, man. Eddie Caldwell, thank you so much.
my pleasure, man. That was
Peace.
fun.